The first shot was fired as the stagecoach rounded the bend, sending dust swirling into the crisp Montana air. Autumn 1876 had painted the landscape in rich golds and reds, but Delilah Martin had no time to appreciate the scenery as she ducked low in her seat, heart hammering against her ribs like a wild Mustang. "Get down, miss!" the driver shouted just before a bullet caught him in the shoulder, sending him toppling from his perch. 3 masked riders emerged from behind the rocky outcropping, their horses kicking up clouds of dust as they circled the coach. Delilah clutched her medical bag tightly, refusing to part with the precious supplies she traveled so far to bring to Silver Creek. "Hand over your valuables and nobody else gets hurt," the tallest rider commanded, leveling his revolver at the terrified passengers. As the other travelers scrambled to surrender their wallets and jewelry, Delilah's gaze locked with the third robber, whose piercing blue eyes were visible through his bandana. For the briefest moment, something unreadable passed between them: recognition, perhaps, though she was certain they'd never met. The moment shattered when gunfire erupted from the ridge above. The outlaws scattered as a lone rider on a midnight black stallion charged down the slope, firing with deadly precision. 2 of the bandits fled, but the blue-eyed man's horse reared when a bullet whizzed past, throwing him roughly to the ground. Delilah watched as their rescuer dismounted in one fluid motion, pressing his boot into the fallen outlaw's chest and removing his mask with the barrel of his gun. "Caught you red-handed this time, Aaron Hawkins," the man growled, his voice as rough as the terrain surrounding them. "Sheriff's got a cell waiting with your name on it." The wounded stagecoach driver groaned, and Delilah's medical training instantly took precedence. She climbed down from the coach, ignoring the tall stranger as she rushed to the injured man's side. "Someone help me get him into the shade," she instructed, already unpacking bandages and antiseptic from her bag. Reluctantly, the stranger dragged Aaron to his feet, binding his wrists before helping Delilah move the driver to a comfortable position beneath a nearby cottonwood. "You a doctor?" he asked skeptically, watching as her steady hands cleaned and dressed the wound. "I'm the closest thing Silver Creek has now," she answered without looking up. "My father was the physician there until typhoid took him last spring. I've come to continue his practice." The stranger let out a disbelieving laugh. "A female doctor in Silver Creek? Good luck with that, lady." Only then did Delilah look up, taking in the full measure of the man before her. Tall and broad-shouldered, with sun-bronzed skin and dark hair streaked with hints of copper where the sunlight caught it. His face might have been handsome if not for the permanent scowl and the scar that sliced through his left eyebrow. "I don't recall asking for your opinion, Mr. Wade." "Marshal Ethan Wade." He tipped his hat sarcastically. "And you're sitting in outlaw territory treating a man shot during a robbery my prisoner helped orchestrate." From the ground, Aaron Hawkins grunted. "I wasn't with them, Wade. I swear I was just passing through." "Save it for the judge," Wade snapped, turning back to Delilah. "Silver Creek's still 2 hours' ride from here, and night's coming. I suggest you let me escort you and these good folks to town before more of Hawkins' friends decide to circle back." As if to emphasize his point, distant hoofbeats echoed from the direction the other bandits had fled. Delilah nodded tersely, packing up her supplies while Wade helped the wounded driver onto his horse. "You can ride with me," he offered, though his tone made it sound more like a command than courtesy. "I'd rather walk," Delilah retorted, but practicality won out as the hoofbeats grew louder. She reluctantly allowed Wade to lift her onto his stallion before he swung up behind her, his chest warm against her back as they set off toward Silver Creek with the prisoner's horse tethered to theirs. The town appeared on the horizon just as dusk settled across the valley, a collection of wooden buildings straddling the silver-colored creek that gave the settlement its name. Lamplight spilled from windows, and the saloon's piano could be heard even from a distance. "Welcome to Silver Creek," Wade said, his breath tickling her ear. Where even the good men have bad reputations and the bad men make no apologies for being worse. As they rode down the main street, Delilah noticed how people stopped to stare not at her, but at Wade. Women pulled their children closer. Men nodded respectfully but warily, and conversation died as they passed. Only when they reached the sheriff's office did she understand why. "Brought you a present, Sheriff?" Wade called as they dismounted. Aaron Hawkins, caught robbing the eastbound stage. The sheriff, a rotund man with a salt and pepper mustache, looked more resigned than pleased. "Again, Wade? That's the third time this month. Would have been his last if I had my way," Wade muttered, hauling Aaron off his horse and shoving him toward the jailhouse door. "I wasn't robbing nobody," Aaron protested, his blue eyes finding Delilah's. "Madam, you saw I was just there." For a moment, Delilah hesitated. Something in the young man's desperate expression gave her pause. "Save your breath, Hawkins," Wade growled. "The lady's too smart to fall for your act." "Actually," Delilah interjected, "he's right. The other two men were definitely robbing us, but Mr. Hawkins here never drew his weapon, nor did he demand anything from the passengers." Wade's expression darkened. "You defending an outlaw, Miss Martin?" "I'm stating facts, Marshal Wade. Something you seem disinclined to acknowledge." The tension between them crackled like lightning before a storm. Sheriff Davis cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Well, I reckon we can sort this out tomorrow after everyone's had some rest," he suggested. "Miss Martin, your father's old place has been kept up. Mrs. Hollister's been expecting you." Delilah nodded gratefully, eager to escape Wade's intimidating presence. "Thank you, Sheriff. I'll be available should anyone need medical attention." As she walked away, she felt Wade's eyes following her. She didn't need to turn around to know his expression would be as stormy as the gathering clouds above. Morning brought a steady stream of curious visitors to Dr. Martin's former office. Most came with minor ailments, a pretense to meet the new lady doctor and determine whether she was worthy of their trust. By midday, Delilah had treated 3 genuine cases: a young boy with a broken wrist, an elderly woman with pneumonia, and a minor with an infected cut. She was washing her hands when the door opened, admitting Marshal Wade with Aaron Hawkins in tow. The young man's face was bruised, one eye swollen nearly shut. "What happened?" Delilah demanded, immediately gesturing Aaron to the examination chair. "Jail happened," Wade answered flatly. "Sheriff wants him looked at before his hearing tomorrow." Delilah's hands were gentle as she examined Aaron's injuries. "These bruises weren't here yesterday." "Prisoners fall," Wade said with dangerous nonchalance. "Especially guilty ones." "I didn't rob nobody," Aaron insisted, wincing as Delilah cleaned a cut above his eye. "I was meeting someone." "Meeting your outlaw friends to plan the robbery," Wade interrupted. "We've been through this, Hawkins. Your brother's gang has been terrorizing this territory for months. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree." "My brother's dead," Aaron said quietly. "Hanged in Cheyenne last month. I came to make things right." Delilah applied a salve to Aaron's bruises. "Make what right?" Before he could answer, Wade grabbed his arm. "That's enough storytelling. Doc's got real patients to tend to." "Marshal Wade," Delilah said, her voice sharp as a scalpel. "I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't manhandle my patients in my office." Wade's jaw tightened. "Your office? Seems to me you've been in town less than a day, Miss Martin. Hardly time to establish yourself as anything but an outsider with misplaced sympathies." "I was born here," she countered. "My father served this town for 30 years. I've earned my place in Silver Creek through his legacy and my own hard work and training." "Training?" Wade's laugh was harsh. "At what? Some ladies finishing school back east?" "Boston Medical College for Women," Delilah corrected, her chin lifting. I was one of 12 women granted degrees this spring. Before you question my qualifications, Marshal, perhaps you should question your own prejudices. Aaron watched their exchange with undisguised fascination. Wade noticed and yanked him toward the door. "Sheriff's waiting," he growled. "And don't get comfortable, Hawkins. Your kind doesn't last long in Silver Creek." After they left, Delilah sagged against her desk. Despite her confident words, she knew Wade was right about one thing: she was an outsider now. Silver Creek had changed in the 10 years she'd been away. The mining boom had brought prosperity but also lawlessness and violence. Late afternoon found her arranging her father's medical books when Sheriff Davis arrived, hat in hand. "Sorry to trouble you, Miss Martin, but we've got a situation at the saloon." Miner took a bottle to the head. "Bleeding something fierce." Delilah grabbed her bag and followed him down the dusty street to the Silver Dollar Saloon. Inside, the usual crowd had formed a circle around a man sprawled on the floor, blood pooling beneath his head. "Give her room to work," the sheriff commanded, and the men parted reluctantly, many eyeing her with skepticism. Delilah knelt beside the injured man, assessing the damage. The wound would require stitches, but first, she needed to clean it properly. As she worked, she became aware of a familiar presence watching from the doorway. Marshal Wade leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, expression unreadable as she methodically closed the wound with neat stitches. Only when she finished bandaging the miner's head did he approach. "Impressive work," he admitted grudgingly. "Though I suppose head wounds are common enough where you come from." "Boston." Delilah arched an eyebrow. "Or are you referring to my gender, Marshal?" The ghost of a smile touched his lips before vanishing. "I meant doctors in general, Miss Martin. Not everything I say is meant as an insult." "Just most things, then," she replied, packing up her supplies. "Will Aaron Hawkins receive a fair trial tomorrow?" Wade's expression hardened. "Justice is justice. If he's innocent as he claims, he has nothing to worry about. And if he's judged by his name rather than his actions, then he shouldn't have chosen to be born a Hawkins," Wade said coldly. "Some things can't be changed, no matter how much we might wish otherwise." There was something in his tone, something personal, that made Delilah study him more carefully. "Everyone deserves a chance to prove themselves, Marshal. Even those with complicated pasts. Some men don't change their ways, Miss Martin. The sooner you accept that, the safer you'll be in this town." He tipped his hat and strode away, leaving Delilah wondering what experiences had hardened the marshal into the unyielding man he had become. The next morning, Delilah arrived at the courthouse early. The small room was already packed with townsfolk eager to witness Aaron Hawkins' trial. Judge Peterson, a stern-faced man with spectacles perched on his nose, presided from behind a sturdy oak desk. Aaron sat alone at a table, no lawyer to defend him. Marshal Wade stood near the door, watching the proceedings with apparent disinterest, though Delilah noticed how his eyes constantly scanned the room, alert for trouble. The trial proceeded swiftly. The stagecoach driver testified about the robbery, confirming there had been 3 masked men but admitting he couldn't positively identify Aaron as one who had demanded money or fired shots. When Delilah was called to testify, she spoke clearly and confidently. The defendant never brandished a weapon nor demanded valuables. In fact, he seemed surprised by the robbery itself. Yet he was wearing a mask, Judge Peterson noted. Why would an innocent man conceal his identity? Before Delilah could respond, the courtroom door burst open. A young woman with auburn hair rushed in, breathless and disheveled. "He was meeting me," she cried. "Aaron Hawkins was meeting me that day." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge Peterson banged his gavel. "Order. Young lady, identify yourself." "Emily Winters, Your Honor. I work at the Silver Creek Mercantile." She approached the bench, a letter clutched in her trembling hand. I have proof. Aaron wrote to me weeks ago, saying he was coming to make a new start after his brother's death. We arranged to meet on the road where the stagecoach was robbed. Wade moved forward, skepticism evident in every line of his body. Why meet in such a remote location? Emily's cheeks flushed. My father doesn't approve. He believes all Hawkinses are trouble. Smart man, Wade muttered. Judge Peterson examined the letter, then looked at Aaron. Why wear a mask if you were simply meeting a young lady? Aaron's gaze dropped. Because Wade's been hunting Hawkinses for years. I knew if he saw me in the territory, he'd assume the worst. I was protecting Emily's reputation too, didn't want anyone recognizing me and connecting us until I could prove I wasn't like my brother. The judge considered this, then turned to Wade. Marshal, do you have any evidence directly linking Mr. Hawkins to the robbery beyond his presence at the scene? Wade's jaw clenched. His family's history speaks for itself. That's not evidence, Marshal, Judge Peterson said sternly. Mr. Hawkins, this court cannot convict you based solely on your name. However, I'm ordering you to remain in Silver Creek for 30 days. During that time, you will report daily to Sheriff Davis and assist with community service. If after 30 days you've proven yourself a law-abiding citizen, you'll be free to go or stay, as you choose. Relief washed over Aaron's face. Thank you, Your Honor. As the courtroom cleared, Delilah noticed the thunderous expression on Wade's face. He stormed out, brushing past her without acknowledgement. Later that afternoon, she spotted him outside the marshal's office, cleaning his rifle with methodical precision. Against her better judgment, she approached. He deserves a chance, Marshal Wade. Wade didn't look up. 30 days is plenty of time for him to show his true colors. Or get someone killed. Or perhaps prove you wrong, she suggested. Has that occurred to you? Now he met her gaze, his eyes hard as granite. 5 years ago, a Hawkins killed my partner. Shot him in the back while he was helping a woman and her child. Last year, another Hawkins rustled cattle from 3 ranches, leaving families destitute for the winter. 6 months ago, the eldest Hawkins brother robbed a bank in Laramie, killing 2 innocent people. And Aaron rode with his brother's gang for 2 years before disappearing east. Maybe he had a change of heart, maybe not. But men like that don't change their ways overnight. Delilah studied him, realizing there was more to Ethan Wade than the harsh lawman he presented to the world. Perhaps not overnight, but that doesn't mean change is impossible. You're naive, he said, but without his usual edge. I prefer hopeful, she countered with a small smile. Good day, Marshal. As she walked away, Delilah couldn't shake the feeling that Wade's vendetta against the Hawkins family wasn't merely professional. There was something deeply personal driving his relentless pursuit of justice, or was it vengeance? The following days fell into a routine. Delilah's practice slowly grew as townsfolk overcame their initial reluctance to be treated by a female doctor. Aaron Hawkins found work at the livery stable and dutifully reported to Sheriff Davis each morning. And Marshal Wade watched them both with suspicious eyes. One evening, as Delilah closed her office, she found Aaron waiting outside. I wanted to thank you, he said earnestly, for speaking up at my trial. Not many would have done that for a Hawkins. I spoke the truth, she replied simply. Are you settling in well? Aaron nodded, falling into step beside her as she walked toward her small house at the edge of town. People are wary, but most are giving me a chance. Except Wade, of course. Man's got eyes like a hawk, follows me everywhere. He believes he's protecting the town. No, Aaron said quietly. It's more personal than that. My brother Jackson killed his partner 5 years back. Wade's been hunting Hawkinses ever since. Delilah frowned. But you weren't involved in that. Doesn't matter to him. Wade sees the world in black and white. To him, I'm just another Hawkins guilty by blood. They reached her gate, and Aaron tipped his hat. Thank you again, Dr. Martin. It's good to know someone believes people can change. As Aaron walked away, Delilah noticed a shadow detach itself from the darkness across the street. Marshal Wade stepped into the lamplight, his expression thunderous as he approached. Consorting with criminals now, Doctor? Walking home with a neighbor, she corrected. Unless that's against the law in Silver Creek. He's not what he seems, Wade warned. Men like Hawkins know how to charm their way into people's good graces. And men like you know how to judge others without giving them a chance, she retorted. Has it occurred to you that your obsession with the Hawkins family might be clouding your judgment? Wade stepped closer, his voice dropping dangerously. My obsession is keeping this town safe. I've seen what happens when good people trust the wrong man. And I've seen what happens when good men can't see past their own prejudices, Delilah countered. Aaron is trying to build a new life here. Why can't you at least acknowledge the possibility? Because I've heard that story before, Wade said bitterly. Right before more innocent people died. Delilah shook her head sadly. Then I pity you, Marshal. It must be exhausting to live in a world where redemption is impossible. For a moment, something vulnerable flickered in Wade's eyes before he masked it with indifference. Save your pity, Doctor. Just be careful who you trust. He turned to go, then paused. There's a spring festival on Saturday. Town tradition. Might help you integrate better if you attended. The abrupt change of topic caught Delilah off guard. Are you inviting me? Informing you, he corrected stiffly. As Marshal, it's my job to ensure newcomers understand community expectations. With that, he stalked away into the darkness, leaving Delilah both frustrated and intrigued by the complex man behind the badge. Saturday dawned clear and warm. The town square transformed with colorful bunting and tables laden with food. Children raced about playing games while adults mingled. The usual social boundaries temporarily relaxed in celebration. Delilah wore her best dress, a cornflower blue that complemented her eyes. She'd hesitated about attending, but Mrs. Hollister had insisted it would be good for her practice to socialize with potential patients. She was sampling Mrs. Peterson's apple pie when she noticed Wade across the square, deep in conversation with Sheriff Davis. Even at a social gathering, he wore his badge and gun belt, ready for trouble. Yet there was something different about him today. His usual severe expression occasionally softened when speaking to children or the elderly. It was as if another man lurked beneath the hard exterior, one rarely allowed to surface. Their eyes met briefly across the crowd, and Delilah smiled politely before turning away, only to find herself face to face with Aaron and Emily. Dr. Martin. Emily beamed, her arm looped through Aaron's. Isn't this wonderful? First time Aaron's been invited to a town event. Actually, Aaron corrected gently, I'm working. Judge Peterson assigned me to help with cleanup afterward. Which means he can enjoy the festival first, Emily insisted. Oh, the dancing's about to start. Indeed, the local musicians had begun tuning their instruments in preparation for the traditional square dances that would occupy the afternoon. Emily pulled Aaron toward the clearing that served as a dance floor, her excitement palpable. Delilah watched them go, smiling at their youthful enthusiasm. She was so distracted she didn't notice Wade's approach until he spoke. Hawkins seems to be adapting well, he observed, his tone neutral for once. Delilah glanced at him in surprise. Yes, he does. Perhaps your concerns were misplaced. Wade's jaw tightened. It's been 2 weeks. Plenty of time left for his true nature to show. Or for you to admit you might be wrong, she suggested, turning to fully face him. Without his usual scowl, Wade was strikingly handsome, something she'd been reluctant to acknowledge until now. "Unlikely," he said, but there was less conviction in his voice. After a moment's hesitation, he added, "You look nice today, Doctor." The compliment, unexpected and gruffly delivered, brought warmth to Delilah's cheeks. "Thank you, Marshal. You clean up rather well yourself." Indeed, he traded his dusty trail clothes for a clean white shirt and dark vest, though his gun belt remained firmly in place. The musicians struck up a lively tune, and couples formed squares for the first dance. To Delilah's astonishment, Wade cleared his throat and extended his hand. "Would you care to dance, Miss Martin?" "I thought marshals didn't dance," she teased, placing her hand in his. "This one does, occasionally." A hint of a smile touched his lips as he led her to the dance floor. When properly motivated. As they joined the other dancers, Delilah discovered Wade moved with unexpected grace, his large hands gentle as he guided her through the steps. For a few moments, the tension between them transformed into something different, something almost like mutual respect, or perhaps something deeper. The moment shattered when gunshots rang out from the direction of the bank. Wade immediately pushed Delilah behind him, drawing his weapon in one fluid motion as panicked townsfolk scattered. "Everyone stay calm," he shouted. "Sheriff with me." As Wade and Sheriff Davis raced toward the bank, Delilah noticed Aaron helping elderly Mrs. Winters to safety, ensuring she was secure before turning to assist others. "Not the actions of a man with criminal intentions," she noted. Two masked men burst from the bank, bags of money clutched in their hands. They fired warning shots into the air as they ran for horses tethered nearby. Wade and the sheriff returned fire, forcing the robbers to take cover behind water troughs and barrels. "Throw down your weapons," Wade commanded. "You're surrounded." One robber peeked out to fire, the bullet splintering wood inches from Wade's head. The marshal's return shot caught the man in the shoulder, sending him sprawling into the dirt. The second robber used the distraction to make a break for his horse, but as he swung into the saddle, Aaron Hawkins emerged from between buildings, tackling him to the ground. They grappled in the dust until Aaron gained the upper hand, pinning the man as Sheriff Davis rushed forward with handcuffs. Wade approached cautiously, his gun still trained on the struggling robber. When Aaron pulled off the man's mask, Wade's expression shifted from suspicion to shock. "Thomas Reeves," he muttered. "Didn't expect to see you this far north." "Go to hell, Wade," the robber spat as the sheriff cuffed him. Delilah hurried forward to examine the wounded robber, her doctor's instincts overriding concerns for her own safety. As she knelt beside him, Wade placed a protective hand on her shoulder. "Careful, document. This one's as likely to stab you as thank you." She nodded, working efficiently to staunch the bleeding. The bullet passed clean through. "He'll live to stand trial." Only when both robbers were secured in the jail did the town cautiously resume its celebration, though with a subdued atmosphere. Delilah found Wade staring thoughtfully at Aaron, who was receiving congratulatory handshakes from several townspeople. "He didn't have to help," Delilah remarked. "Could have used the chaos to slip away if he'd wanted." Wade's brow furrowed. "No, he couldn't. Not with Emily watching. Maybe that's his angle." Delilah sighed in exasperation. "Or maybe, just maybe, he's exactly what he appears to be, a young man trying to escape his family's legacy and build an honest life." "Maybe," Wade conceded reluctantly, "but I've been wrong before. Cost lives." Something in his tone made Delilah pause. "What happened? With Aaron's brother and your partner?" Wade's expression closed like a steel trap. "Ancient history." "Not to you," she said softly. "You carry it with you every day." For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he spoke, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "James Lockwood. Best lawman I ever knew. Kind, fair, decent to everyone. We were tracking Jackson Hawkins after a string of robberies. Caught up to his gang outside Carson City. Wade's eyes grew distant with memory. There was a woman with a baby at a stagecoach stop. Said her husband was hurt in the hills, needed help. James went with her while I secured the horses. He paused, jaw working. It was a trap. Jackson Hawkins shot him in the back. Then the woman stabbed him while he was down. By the time I got there, he was dying. They were gone, along with our horses. Took me 3 days to get him back to town, but he died on the trail. Delilah's heart ached at the raw pain in his voice. I'm sorry. I tracked them for 2 years before finally catching Jackson. He hanged, but the woman, his wife, disappeared, along with their infant son. Wade's gaze shifted to Aaron. Hawkins had a younger brother who rode with him for a while. Never caught him. Understanding dawned. You think Aaron was that brother? I know he was, Wade confirmed grimly. What I don't know is whether his reformation is genuine or just another Hawkins trap. The music started again, but neither of them moved to rejoin the dancing. Instead, they stood in silent contemplation, the festive sounds at odds with the heaviness of Wade's confession. Thank you, Delilah said finally, for telling me. Wade nodded once, then straightened his shoulders as if physically shrugging off the weight of the past. I should check on the prisoners. Make sure the doc who treated them did a proper job. A small smile tugged at Delilah's lips. I assure you, Marshal, the doctor is quite competent. Never doubted it, he replied, and for the first time since they'd met, his smile reached his eyes. As weeks passed, Silver Creek settled into summer routines. Delilah's practice flourished as more townsfolk came to trust her medical expertise. Aaron continued his work at the livery stable, his relationship with Emily blossoming despite her father's lingering reservations. And Marshal Wade, while still vigilant, gradually relaxed his constant surveillance of the young Hawkins. The change in Wade was subtle but noticeable to Delilah. He stopped by her office occasionally, ostensibly to check on patients from the jail but lingering to discuss town matters or debate the merits of various medical treatments. Sometimes he brought coffee from the hotel restaurant, claiming it was superior to what she brewed in her office. Delilah pretended not to notice that these visits often coincided with her lunch hour. One hot afternoon, she was treating a young ranch hand with heat exhaustion when Wade arrived, concern etched on his face. Everything all right? She asked as she finished giving instructions to her patient. Wade waited until the young man left before answering. Got a telegram from the marshal in Cheyenne. Seems there's been a series of bank robberies working their way toward Silver Creek. Pattern matches the Hawkins gang's old methods. Delilah frowned. But Jackson Hawkins is dead. His wife isn't, Wade said grimly. Victoria Hawkins disappeared after his hanging. Word is she's reassembled some of the gang and is continuing her husband's work. You can't possibly think Aaron is involved, Delilah protested. He's been here every day, working honest hours and staying out of trouble. Wade paced the small office. Tomorrow marks 30 days. Judge Peterson will release Hawkins from supervision. Convenient timing for someone planning a heist. That's speculation, not evidence, Delilah argued. Aaron has proven himself to this town. Even you must see that. Wade stopped pacing to look at her directly. I want to believe he's changed. For your sake, if nothing else. The admission startled her. My sake? You've staked your reputation on his redemption, Wade said, though something in his eyes suggested there was more to it. If he betrays that trust. He won't, she said with conviction. I've seen enough men hiding behind masks, both literal and figurative, to recognize sincerity when I see it. Wade studied her for a long moment. You see the best in people. It's admirable if dangerous. I see people as they are, Delilah corrected. Including you, Marshal. And what do you see when you look at me? He asked, his voice uncharacteristically vulnerable. Delilah met his gaze steadily. A good man who's afraid to trust his own judgment again. A man so determined to protect others that he's built walls around himself. A man who could be more than his badge if he allowed himself to be. Wade's expression softened, and he took a step toward her. Delilah. The office door burst open as Emily Winters rushed in, tears streaming down her face. Dr. Martin. Marshal. Aaron's been shot. They followed Emily to the livery stable, where Aaron lay on a pile of hay, blood seeping through his shirt. The stable owner stood nearby, rifle in hand. What happened? Wade demanded, kneeling beside the wounded man. Caught him stealing from the cash box, the stable owner explained. Tried to run, so I shot him. That's a lie, Emily cried. Tell them, Aaron. Aaron winced as Delilah examined his wound. I found something, he gasped. Plans. Robbery. Tomorrow. Wade's expression hardened. Where? His saddlebag, Aaron managed before losing consciousness. While Delilah worked to stabilize Aaron, Wade searched the indicated saddlebag, extracting a folded paper. His face grew grim as he read. Plans for robbing the bank tomorrow during the payroll delivery, he confirmed, showing Delilah the crude map with notes in a feminine handwriting. Signed V. Victoria, Delilah whispered, understanding dawning. But Aaron wasn't part of it. He found the plans. Or planted them as a cover, the stable owner suggested. Boy was acting strange all day, poking around where he shouldn't be. Wade studied Aaron's unconscious form, conflict evident in his expression. Get him to the doctor's office, he finally ordered. He stays under guard until we sort this out. Hours later, Aaron regained consciousness in Delilah's examination room, Wade standing watch at the door. Emily sat beside the bed, holding Aaron's hand while Delilah changed his bandages. Why would Victoria Hawkins hide plans in your saddlebag? Wade asked without preamble. Aaron winced as he tried to sit up. She's my stepmother, he admitted. After my brother died, she disappeared. I thought she'd left the territory until I saw her in town 3 days ago. Why didn't you report this? Wade demanded. Would you have believed me? Aaron countered. Besides, I wasn't sure it was her at first. She looked different, cut her hair, dresses like a man now. When I approached her, she acted like she didn't know me. But later I found the plans in my bag. She must have slipped them in while I was working. Convenient explanation, Wade remarked skeptically. It's the truth, Aaron insisted. I was going to bring those plans to you today when Mr. Jenkins caught me with the saddlebag. He assumed I was stealing. Emily squeezed his hand. I believe you. So do I, Delilah said, facing Wade. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Wade's expression was unreadable as he studied Aaron. Finally, he sighed. And that's a big if. Victoria Hawkins is planning to rob the bank tomorrow, we need to be ready. But first, we need to find her. I know where she's staying, Aaron offered. Abandoned cabin outside town. I followed her yesterday. Wade nodded slowly. All right, Hawkins. One chance to prove yourself. You stay here under the doc's care. Sheriff and I will check out this cabin. If you're telling the truth, we'll discuss what comes next. After Wade left, Delilah turned to Aaron. He's starting to believe you. Aaron smiled weakly. Maybe. Or maybe he just wants Victoria more than he wants me in jail. Either way, Delilah said. It's progress. Night had fallen by the time Wade returned, his expression grim as he entered Delilah's office. Sheriff Davis followed, looking equally troubled. Cabin was recently occupied, Wade reported. Found evidence of multiple people, at least 4, based on the bedrolls. They cleared out in a hurry, but left this behind. He held up a wanted poster with Jackson Hawkins' face on it. The word avenged scrawled across it in red. Did you find Victoria? Aaron asked anxiously. Wade shook his head. No sign of her, but we found this. He produced a crude drawing of Silver Creek's bank with tomorrow's date written across it. They're still planning to hit the bank, Sheriff Davis explained. Wade and I are setting up an ambush. I need to be there, Aaron insisted, trying to rise. Victoria's dangerous, more dangerous than my brother ever was. She was always the one planning the robberies. You're in no condition to help, Delilah objected. That bullet took a lot of blood. Besides, Wade added, how do we know you won't warn her? Aaron's face hardened. Because she killed my brother, Marshal. Oh, she didn't hang him, but she's the one who got him caught. I found letters she wrote to the Cheyenne Marshal, trading information for immunity. Wade's eyebrows shot up. You're saying she betrayed her own husband? Jackson was abusive, Aaron explained. She tolerated it until she didn't. Then she orchestrated his capture while ensuring her own escape. I didn't understand until I found those plans. This isn't about avenging Jackson, it's about finishing what they started. The biggest score yet, with no one to share it with. Wade and Sheriff Davis exchanged looks. If that's true, Wade said slowly, she's more dangerous than we thought. She is, Aaron confirmed. And she knows I figured it out. That's why I need to be there tomorrow as bait. Delilah opened her mouth to protest, but Wade surprised her by nodding thoughtfully. It might work. If she believes you're cooperating with us, she might change her plans, give us an advantage. Ethan, Delilah gasped. You can't be serious. He's injured, which makes him more convincing, Wade argued. We'll keep him safe, document promise. The look that passed between them held more than professional concern. Delilah felt her heart quicken as Wade's gaze softened when it met hers. I trust you, she said quietly. Dawn broke with an unusual flurry of activity in Silver Creek. The bank opened early to receive the mine payroll, while ordinary citizens went about their business, unaware of the lawmen strategically positioned throughout town. Aaron sat on a bench outside the doctor's office, apparently recuperating in the morning sun but actually watching for any sign of Victoria. Wade had stationed men on rooftops and in alleyways, while he himself waited inside the bank with Sheriff Davis. Delilah paced her office, unable to concentrate on her medical journals. She'd argued for Aaron to remain under her care, but Wade had convinced her his plan offered the best chance of capturing Victoria without bloodshed. If she sees her stepson apparently untroubled and unsuspicious, she'll assume her plans are still secret, he'd explained. That gives us the advantage. Now, watching from her window as Aaron maintained his vigil, Delilah could only pray Wade's strategy would succeed. The stagecoach carrying the payroll arrived precisely at 9 o'clock. As the strongbox was transferred into the bank, Delilah noticed a woman in men's clothing loitering near the saloon. Something about her posture too alert, too focused raised Delilah's suspicions. Without stopping to think, she grabbed her medical bag and headed outside. If trouble was coming, people might need her help. She had just reached Aaron when gunshots erupted from the saloon. 3 masked figures burst onto the street, firing into the air to scatter pedestrians as they charged toward the bank. Victoria, Aaron muttered, spotting the slight figure leading the charge. She changed the plan. Before Delilah could stop him, Aaron staggered to his feet, placing himself in Victoria's path. It's over, Victoria, he shouted. Wade knows everything. The woman skidded to a halt, her eyes widening behind her mask as she recognized her stepson. You, she snarled. Traitor, just like your brother. She raised her gun, aiming at Aaron's heart. Delilah moved without thinking, shoving the wounded man aside as Victoria fired. The bullet grazed Delilah's arm instead of finding its intended target. Wade emerged from the bank at the sound of gunfire, taking in the scene with a single glance. His face went ashen when he saw Delilah clutching her bleeding arm. "Surrender, Victoria!" he roared, his gun trained on the female outlaw. "You're surrounded." Victoria's accomplices were already engaged in gunfights with deputies positioned around the square. One fell with a cry, clutching his leg. Another dove for cover behind a water trough. Victoria's eyes darted frantically, seeking escape. Finding none, she grabbed the nearest hostage, Emily, who had rushed outside at the commotion. "Back off, Marshal," Victoria demanded, pressing her gun to Emily's temple. "Or the girl dies." Wade held his position, his expression stone cold. "That won't happen, Victoria. Not today." "Then she dies first," Victoria hissed, cocking the hammer. Aaron lunged forward despite his wound. "Victoria, no. Take me instead." Victoria's laugh was bitter. "Noble to the end, just like Jackson. He protected you too, you know. Right up until I told him you'd betrayed us to the law." "That was you?" Aaron realized, horror dawning on his face. "You told him I was the informant." "And he believed me," Victoria sneered. "Family loyalty only goes so far, boy." As she spoke, Delilah noticed Wade inching closer, using the distraction of conversation to close the distance. Their eyes met briefly, and Delilah understood what he needed: another distraction. "Your wound is bleeding again, Aaron," she said loudly, drawing Victoria's attention to Aaron's blood-soaked shirt. "Let me help you." She moved toward Aaron, deliberately placing herself in Victoria's line of sight. The outlaw's focus wavered for just an instant, enough for Wade to make his move. He tackled Victoria from behind, sending her gun flying as Emily scrambled to safety. The two wrestled in the dirt, Victoria fighting with the desperation of someone with nothing to lose. "I should have killed you in Carson City," she spat as Wade pinned her arms behind her back. Wade froze, recognition dawning. You were the woman with the baby. The one who led James to his death." Victoria's smile was venomous. "Your partner was a fool. Just like you." With surprising strength, she bucked Wade off and lunged for her fallen gun. Aaron intercepted her, grappling with his stepmother despite his weakened state. They struggled over the weapon until a shot rang out. Victoria staggered backward, a look of surprise on her face as blood bloomed across her shirt. The gun fell from her fingers as she collapsed. "No," Aaron whispered, dropping to his knees beside her. "I didn't mean to." Delilah rushed forward, medical instincts taking over as she examined the wound. "Get her to my office. Quickly." Hours later, Delilah emerged from her surgery room, exhausted but triumphant. Wade and Aaron looked up from where they waited, tension evident in both men's faces. "She'll live," Delilah announced. "The bullet missed vital organs. She'll stand trial for her crimes." Relief washed over Aaron's features. Despite everything, Victoria was still the woman who had raised him after his mother's death. Wade's expression was more complex, relief mingled with something like disappointment, as if part of him had hoped for a different outcome. "You did well today, Hawkins," Wade said finally. "Saved lives, including mine and the doc's." Aaron nodded tiredly. "Does this mean my 30 days are up for good?" Wade's mouth twitched in what might have been a smile. "I'd say you've earned your place in Silver Creek, if that's still what you want." Aaron's gaze drifted toward the doorway, where Emily waited anxiously. "It is. More than anything." As Aaron went to join Emily, Wade turned to Delilah. "Your arm needs tending, document. Who takes care of the doctor when she's injured?" Delilah smiled despite her exhaustion. "Usually, I manage on my own." "Not tonight," Wade said firmly, guiding her to a chair. Show me what to do." Under Delilah's instructions, Wade cleaned and bandaged her wound with surprising gentleness, his calloused fingers careful against her skin. "I was wrong about him," Wade admitted quietly. "About Aaron." "Yes, you were," Delilah agreed. "Though your caution was understandable, given your history." Wade's hands stilled. "I've carried that day with me for so long. Used it to justify suspecting everyone, trusting no one. And now," Delilah asked softly, "now I'm wondering what else I might be wrong about." His eyes met hers, vulnerability evident in their depths. "When I saw Victoria aim at you, I realized something. I've been so focused on the past, on avenging James, that I almost missed what was right in front of me." "And what's that?" Delilah's heart quickened as Wade's hand moved from her bandage to gently cup her cheek. "A future," he said simply. "If you're willing to take a chance on a stubborn lawman who's slow to change his ways." Delilah smiled, covering his hand with hers. "I believe I mentioned I have a particular interest in redemption stories." Wade leaned forward, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that promised new beginnings for them both. Fall 1877 painted Silver Creek in hues of amber and gold as the town gathered for a wedding. Aaron Hawkins stood proudly as Ethan Wade's best man, fully recovered from his wounds and respected as the livery stable's new owner. Emily beamed from the front row, their own engagement recently announced to a surprisingly supportive town. Victoria Hawkins had been sentenced to 20 years in territorial prison, her testimony helping to capture the remaining members of her gang. Aaron visited monthly, gradually rebuilding a relationship based on truth rather than manipulation. Sheriff Davis officiated the ceremony, his voice carrying across the flower-decorated town square as Delilah Martin, radiant in ivory lace, promised to love and cherish Ethan Wade for all their days. "I never believed in second chances," Wade confessed during their vows, his voice steady but his eyes suspiciously bright. "Never thought a man like me could change his ways. Then you walked into my life, challenged every assumption, and showed me that the heart can heal and grow stronger in the mended places." Delilah smiled through happy tears. "And I never expected to find love in Silver Creek, certainly not with the stubborn Marshal who scowled at me on my first day. But you've shown me that the truest strength lies in allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to trust again despite past hurts." As they sealed their promises with a kiss, the gathered townsfolk erupted in cheers. No one cheered louder than Aaron Hawkins, the man whose redemption had paved the way for the Marshal's own transformation. Later, at the celebration in the town square, Wade pulled Delilah aside for a moment of privacy beneath the cottonwood trees. "Mrs. Wade," he murmured, still savoring the sound of her new name. "I have something for you." He pressed a key into her palm. "What's this?" she asked. "The deed to the land north of town," he explained. 10 acres with that view of the mountains you love. Enough room for a proper house, a garden, maybe even a small hospital someday." Delilah's eyes widened. "Ethan, how did you manage this?" "Been saving for years," he admitted. "Never had a reason to put down permanent roots until now." She wrapped her arms around his neck. "It's perfect. Our own piece of Silver Creek." Wade's smile, no longer a rare sight, brightened his entire face. "There's more. Judge Peterson offered me the position of circuit judge. Less dangerous than marshal work. More time at home with my wife." "You're retiring your badge?" Delilah asked in surprise. "Transforming it," he corrected. "Still upholding the law, just in a different way. Time for Silver Creek to have a new marshal anyway, someone with fresh eyes, not clouded by old vendettas." "Aaron?" Delilah guessed, noting how Wade had been mentoring the young man in recent months. Wade nodded. "He has a natural sense of justice, tempered by understanding what drives men to make bad choices. Town council approved the appointment this morning." They looked across the celebration to where Aaron stood with Emily, his badge newly pinned to his chest as he accepted congratulations from townsfolk who had once viewed him with suspicion. Full circle, Delilah observed. A Hawkins protecting the law instead of breaking it. People can change, Wade acknowledged, drawing her close. You taught me that. As dusk settled over Silver Creek, Ethan and Delilah Wade slipped away from their celebration, riding toward their future home on the ridge overlooking the town. Below them, lamplight twinkled in windows, casting a golden glow across the community that had witnessed both their individual journeys and their union. They said you couldn't change your ways, Delilah teased as they watched the sunset paint the mountains in brilliant hues. They were right, Wade replied, pulling her into his embrace. Until you changed my heart. Their silhouettes merged against the fading light, two souls who had found in each other the courage to heal, to trust, and to build a future brighter than either had dared to imagine in the wild, unforgiving beauty of the western frontier.